Hello, I'm EnterElysium, and this is World War K. Sorry if I'm speaking quietly, it's rather late. Try not to wake the neighbours up. So, today we're making a drop pod, because so many people have said make a drop pod. And it makes somewhat sense, considering we need a rapid reaction force. Now, the point about designing a drop pod is that you want it to be able to re-enter quickly. So, you want it in a low orbit to begin with. The advantage of a low orbit is there's less distance to the ground, but also that it rotates, it orbits faster. And since it's orbiting faster, it covers the globe quicker. So when rotation is incredibly quick. Now, when you want it to decelerate, of course, you have to give it some velocity in the retrograde direction, and then you'll be coming at an angle, but the more velocity you can give it, the steeper your descent can be. Now the problem is the steeper the descent, the more you need to brake. Because of course you're going through less air if you're going straight down as opposed to an angle. So here I've put some mini jet engines on. The idea is that we'll be able to thrust ourselves continually downwards. So decrease the time to target. The point is this is going to be a rapid reaction force, go as quick as possible. Playing around with the design here. I've added a mech jib unit just so that we can see the stats in the editor. I'll probably take that off. Because, I'm just trying to keep the hand in, do a bit of non-mech jib flying for once. So here we go, put some monopropellant tanks on the side, and you see everything's being decoupled because we want to have the minimum mass possible to push, and also want the minimum radar cross-section. I'm pretty sure that the plasma bloom caused by re-entry appears very brightly on radar, but I'm not certain. And I had a quick look on the internet to see if I could actually find whether that's the case or not. And apparently, one thing the internet doesn't know, or at least doesn't tell you very obviously. So if anyone actually does know whether a plasma bloom shows up bright on radar, put it in the comments. I think it does. So we're going to try and minimise the radar cross-section. We're done with the actual drop pod now, so I'm just putting something on to just act as the pretend space station, because of course when we put this up we're going to put several of them up. This is just a test one, so that little white block at the top, that's our pretend space station that we're going to be detaching from, and put some solar panels on it just to make it look the part. Bam! Done. And I've forgotten something obvious. We need SAS. See, 0.21 is a brilliant addition for the SAS, but of course we're still here in 0.20 at the moment, so no magical SAS built in, we need to actually use the units. Let's take off. And for some reason my engine's got jammed. Let's try that again. And yeah, my engine's got jammed again on 2/3 and I can't change it. Like the linkage between the stages is broken, but it doesn't seem to actually have done so. At least I can still turn, which is a good thing. I mean, ideally we would want the throttle on full right now, but we're just going to have to settle. Oh, I got some control there at the end. That was strange. Anyway, just attach the stage and go up. No mixture whatsoever. Other than the fact that I'm using the stats because... actually I'm not even using the stats at the moment, I've just got the Delta V open, which is completely unnecessary. I'm actually using the map screen. Although it's annoying flying by map screen, I'd rather have those stats, because you want to know your apoapsis and your periapsis. You need them really on the main screen if you're going to fly properly. Which is why I like flying with MechJeb, even if I don't use the autopilots and stuff. Right, get to our apoapsis and... Now I didn't put much Delta V on this, so I think we're only just going to make orbit. Barely. See, we've got 4 seconds burn left in the engine, now we made it. Do some correction burns, and we might just have enough left that we can actually eject a fuel tank that's not completely empty. So we might actually have a tiny bit spare. And it's only to spare as in there is some left, not as in you could actually do anything with it. Drop pods in real life, of course, don't really exist because there's no real need for them. And the cost and maintenance of actually having a rapid reaction force in space would be ridiculous compared to, say, having an entire fleet of paratroopers. In fiction, though, of course, the earliest I can think of is the novel Starship Troopers, not the film. The novel is very different in its depiction of the mobile infantry to the film. In the novel, the mobile infantry are actually just basically awesome badasses in exoskeleton suits, and they have like a ceramic egg which they re-enter in, and that sort of breaks up as it goes in and turns into chaff. And they're basically a mobile rapid reaction force. I think I'm going to be overshooting here. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think monopropellant is going to be quite enough to be able to... Well, this is only a simulation, it's a test. It doesn't matter so much. It's perfectly legitimate to go back and try that again. So, because I've saved a bit too close to the landing zone, we'll do an extra orbit. We're just trying to land at the as close as we can to the Kerbal Space Center. So it's a nice target. There we go. Let's try this. It's more sort of what, fifth of an orbit, sixth of an orbit. So what, about 70 degrees. MechJeb's landing prediction thing is very helpful. Because of course it takes into account air resistance and so on. But of course we're going to be playing around with that because we actually have jet engines that are going to force us down. Which does give us limited capability of choosing our landing zone when we're already close to the ground. Not close to the ground, but when we're thick in atmosphere we can still vary our landing site to a certain extent, which allows us to get more pinpoint landing zones. So, for instance, we could actually land on a beach rather than saying, "Oh, we can't land there because we might land in the sea," which is useful. Other fictional drop pods. You've got, of course, Halo. It's one-man entry vehicles. 40k, Warhammer 40k. You've got the Space Marine drop pods, which are designed also to kill anything that's really underneath them. Now the problem in real life is that if you're stopping that quickly that you'll actually cause damage to whatever underneath you, you're probably going to be stopping that quickly that you're going to cause damage to your internal organs. Similar to how a person inside a Land Rover crashing at 60 miles an hour is still going to get their organs liquefied and their car's not going to be in terrible shape compared to, let's say, your average family car, which is going to crumple. So the plan with this is we've got a parachute and we're going to try and open it as late as possible and see if the deceleration will hold. I don't know, because frankly we're going to be cutting it tight on the acceleration. Oh, me ripping off parachutes. That's going to be a novel approach for the channel. Anyway, so yeah, we are testing it to the limit here. Just checked, hand acceleration isn't on. And yes, I tested it past the limit. However, we were on target. So yeah, we need to have some sort of deceleration mechanism other than a parachute that we can use just before a parachute. So I'm thinking maybe we should add a bunch of those little Septrons and use them at the last minute to slow us down. We could add more parachutes, but parachutes are really heavy actually in KSP. I think the parachutes that go on the side as opposed to the little end cone one, they're like 0.2 of a ton, so 200 kilograms. We're trying to keep this as light as possible, mainly because we're trying to keep the spirit of you want light as possible to get to orbit, light as possible so you can push it down and get to a high speed. And we're trying to keep it as small as possible as well. Although with these things on the side, the radar cross section is getting a bit big. There we go, just put a bunch of them on. Now the closest we actually have got to drop pods really is what, like paratroops and gliders. Now gliders are a bit more similar in that the point is that you can't really hear them coming. If we're taking gliders from when gliders were actually a viable military tactic, we're talking Second World War. You could hear enemy planes incoming, but you couldn't hear a glider because a glider doesn't have an engine. That's the point. It glides, so it doesn't have an engine. And they'd be just towed behind planes up until near the target and then let go, and they'd glide in silently. And they'd give you a lot more accuracy than paratroopers would, because you'd spread paratroopers over a wide area. Or at least, in Second World War you would. And with a glider you can basically pick and you can get a much more accurate landing zone, though you do require decent terrain. And you could also have a density of force in one area, because they can all come in and land side by side. And the British use this a lot in the Second World War. Okay, let's try this. I think we're going to be aiming for the runway this time. Get ready. And we're going sideways. Oopsie. That's because the top bit didn't detach for some reason when it should have, but apparently it did decelerate us enough. And we opened about 300 meters, which I think is a reasonable height. I mean, I'd prefer to open later and make it go sort of really close to the wire and only just, but this was our second attempt, so. And 300 meters is sort of a decent height to open at. In total, the mission time from release to landing is about 7 minutes in game time, which I think is reasonable. You decide you want to force out, and 7 minutes later, bam! Well, assuming they're already in their drop pods and ready. 7 minutes to target. That is if they're in the right launch position. I don't know how long an orbit at a low altitude orbit takes in KSP, but that's a rapid reaction force. So we've successfully made a drop pod system that works. So we'll start deploying this, and we can counter the Styx threat with it. I've been EnterElysium, and stay shiny.
Gentlemen, we're on our way back from the area of operations. Enemy planes are in the area. Bill?
Sir?
Fred?
Sir?
You'll be flying Copper for the Jebediah. Once the aircraft carrier is into Elysium territory, we are fairly safe, but until that time, you will defend us. Should enemy planes threaten the safety of the aircraft carrier, you are weapons free.
You see anything, Fred?
Negative, Bill. Perhaps we scared them off.
Couldn't count it, Freddy. Wait one. I've got radar contact. 3 bows, 60 degrees left, 1 angel, coming in low and fast.
Should we dust off the welcome that, Bill?
Control with enemy bows incoming. Lead and set.
Roger, Bill. Remember the rules of the engagement. Do not engage unless they turn towards the carrier, over.
Confirm control. Fred, let's go play with Chuckleheads a visit. Fred, you got any other contacts?
Negative, Bill. Wait one. Enemy incoming. Come on,
Fred, no!